to include, well, it's two jobs, but he seemed to want to bring James Harden along and build around him.
He's called him the greatest scorer of all time, ahead of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's a dumb distinction, which is also, when I think of greatest scorer, I don't think of James Harden.
What?
If you want to say, like, greatest scorer, and the test is, like, who do you want taking the final shot, that's probably the most clutch person. But when you say greatest scorer, you're talking about who has the most, like, effective and deep bag of moves. I still wouldn't say James Harden, but whatever.
This man said when he think of the greatest scorers of all time, he don't think of James Harden. That is one of the worst takes of all time. Let me break it down. Let's look who has the most 40-point games of all time. Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and James Harden. James Harden has the fourth most 40-point games of all time. But when you think about all-time greatest scorers, you don't think of James Harden? That's crazy. Let's keep going. Okay, let's go to 50-point games. Who has the most 50-point games of all time? You got Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and guess who? James Harden. James Harden got the fourth most 50-point games of all time. But when you think of all-time greatest scorers, you don't think of James Harden? That's crazy. Let's keep going. Okay, let's go to 60. Let's see who has the most 60-point games of all time. You got Wilt Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, Damian Lillard, and James Harden. James Harden got the fourth most 60-point games of all time. And when you think of the all-time greatest scorers, you don't think of James Harden? That's crazy. But let's keep going. And for y'all that are thinking, oh, those are just individual games, let's see who averaged the most points in the NBA season. You got Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, and James Harden. Only two people in NBA history has averaged more points than James Harden in the NBA season. Only two people. But when you think of the greatest scorers of all time, you don't think of James Harden? That's great. But I'm going to keep going. Y'all can pause this and read this if you want, but it's something in here that stuck out to me. Remember, he said he ain't had no bag, but I'm going to ignore that. Never mind. Peep this. It says, a Harden step back three, crafty footwork, and lefty finish have made him almost unguardable back in his prime in 2017 through 2020 when he led the league in scoring and had a stretch of games in which he scored 30 or more points in 32 consecutive games. Let me say that again. He scored 30 or more points in 32 consecutive games. It says right here that there's only 4 players to have scored 40 points in 100 games or more, making them the Mount Rushmore of scorers. You hear that? The Mount Rushmore of scorers. The reason why he don't think of James Harden when he think of all-time scorers, because of media coverage. Because the media don't bring up James Harden when they speak of the best scorers of all time. And so by him not really being a student of the game, he don't know that. He allows ESPN, Fox Sports, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, whoever else to dictate how he feel about basketball because he doesn't really watch it. That's just my observation of this conversation. This conversation sounds like two people who really didn't know basketball. I'm just saying, though.